Yeah. So yeah, I've created a touch. Okay, let me. Okay, I'm on my home directory, so that's the reason. Okay, let me create a directory. mkdir synth. Oh, okay. Sudo. Okay, ls, and yeah, I have a folder cd synth, and here I'm creating a file that is touch demo underscore script dot sh. Come on, do I need it again? Okay. Yeah, so I have created a file, uh, and let me do a ls minus l to see the version of the file. So here, if you see, I've got read write. This is for the owner. So
Execute is not there for owner.
yeah, and again, this is the file, right?
It's
So
this
I've
file.
got
Yeah.
minus, yeah, and then as a owner, I can do a read write, no execution, and others can just read. So that's why
Read.
every time I want to use the sudo, right,
Okay.
as the owner. So I'm actually elevating my skill to give me the owner access. Now, if I want to edit anything in the file, I won't be able to do that. So what I'll do is I do a chmod. So chmod 755 and then the demo script.sh.
Sudo. You have to
Freshened
use
up.
sudo, I think.
Yes, chmod. Or else I have to go back to my original folder and then I have to give the access. Yeah, so now I've got my access. I've given my access. So now when I do the ls minus l, so here, the same thing like execute, read, and execute, but still we don't have the write access. If in case we need to have write access, and we don't need read access in that case, I can just change the mode to sudo change mode. I can give 7.
733.
Uh, mm, I just need to write. So I need
Two
read
two.
and write. So which
Okay.
is
4 and
4
2
plus
and
2. Yeah.
6.
So it'll be
6 6.
766 or even 7, 6 and 4 because I don't want others to read, just read. They don't want to write. Right. So in that case, I can give this as well. And if I do ls minus l, see now the owner has all the access and I can do the write. I can do write and the others can just read it. Okay. So again, the X here, it appears for just the owner because that's the execute one. Okay, fine. I think now you're able to understand it. So when we do the
Yeah.
change mode, we were able to change the access for the user. Okay, great. Fine. Now the next question. Okay, now let me get back the notepad here. Yeah. So now the second question here. Who can delete a file in a directory with a sticky bit?
The one who has, uh, like, I can only create
Hmm,
the content which I have added.
hmm.
So directory has a sticky bit.
Okay. Before that, let's first explain what a sticky bit is. Okay, because for the in the interview perspective, people might not people expect you to explain what a sticky bit is. So sticky bit is actually a security feature which is primarily used on shared directories. Okay, so when a directory is shared, we used to
Hmm.
add a lot of security features, and the sticky bit is something security feature which is on the shared directories.
Shared
Okay,
directories.
yeah. So normally, if a user has write permission to a directory, they can delete any file. Okay, so they can delete any file inside the directory, inside the directory. Even if they don't own the file, they can delete any file. But this sticky bit is actually changing that. So what it does is, so when the sticky bit is set, the file can only be deleted by the owner of the file and the owner of the directory, and the root user. So just only these three people can delete it. So let me just reiterate. So sticky bit is actually a security feature which is primarily used on shared directories. So if a user has a write permission, if I have a user permission on your directory, so you have created a directory and I have a user permission, I have write permission on that directory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can delete any file inside your directory. Even though I don't own the file, you own the file, you own the directory, I have no permission. I have just only the write permission, right? So when we introduce the sticky bit, what happens is only the owner. So only you can delete, only you can delete the file, only you can delete the directory. I mean, like you have the ownership of the file, you have the ownership of the directory, and the root user. So it's the entire user who can directly do it. Okay. So let's do a quick demo on that. So for example, let me come out of it. Let me create a folder. So sudo mkdir. So since it is a direct shared one, so I'm just creating a shared name. So shared zone and sudo chmod. I'm going to give 1777 and then the shared underscore zone. So now
So
what I'm going to do is, yeah,
one is for sticky bit.
yes. So now I'm going to do ls minus ld shared zone. So here if you see, the output clearly tells it's a directory. Read, write, execute, read, write, execute, and read, write t. Right. So I was telling you about that sticky thing, right? Yeah. So and then again two followed by root, and then the time and date, everything. So the t at the end indicates that's the sticky byte is active. So now any permission that shows t at the end, which means it is a
It's a
sticky
sticky
bit
bit.
directory. Yeah. So now if I go back, so for example, I can switch to another user. For example, like su. Maybe I can. Let me just check. Okay, sorry, su minus Bob ls. Okay, su minus. Okay, I don't have an existing user, but okay, let me explain you. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm actually trying, if I create a folder, like if I'm a owner of a directory, of this directory shared zone, okay, and I'm not the owner, I'm just some other user, or I'm not the root user. So I cannot delete the file even though I have the right ownership. And again, this T indicates the sticky bit. So
Yeah,
now you have got two things. So one is sticky bit is a security feature which we have that in the directories. If we don't have a security feature, anybody who has write permission can delete a
delete.
file inside the folder. Yes, right, great. So now you understood, right? So what is the sticky bit
Yeah.
and how we use it? Okay, great. And moving on to the next question, the third one. What is what is um, SUID? A real example of what a SUID is and where it is used. Okay, so talking about SUID. So SUID is let me just move it here. Yeah. So SUID is setting a user ID. Okay, so which is a special type of it's a special type permission in
File permission.
Linux. Yeah, it's a special type of file permission in Linux. So what it does is,
And
yeah,
it's for owner only, right?
yes. So I'll explain that. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it's only for the permission of the owner of the file. So what it does is, normally when we run a program, it
Mm-hmm.
runs with your permissions, right? Whatever your the permissions that we give, it runs with your permissions. But if a file has the SUID bit set, then the program runs with the permissions of the owner of the file. So that is what the SUID makes a difference. So normally when we run a program, it will run with, see, for example, if I'm running with a file, I'm not the owner of the file, and when I run it, it will run whatever the permissions I have. Okay, but if I have the SUID bit set, and when I run that program, it will run with the permission of the owner of the file. Take for example, if you are the owner of the file, and you have read, write, and execute permission, and I'm another user, and I have just the read permission. So when I run with my permission, I won't be able to execute it. right? But when I run with SUID, it will launch as the owner of the file, and then it will execute, and it will do whatever operations as the owner does. And it's not the user who launched it. Okay, so you can identify the SUID permission in a long listing. For example, if I use ls ls minus l, uh, yeah, where is that command? Yeah, ls minus l, and maybe I can use usr, the user slash bin slash, where is this usr? Usr user, yep, followed by bin, yep. Oh, I don't have anything here. Okay, fine. So I can see all these files. So I see any password folder. Should be able to see that. Okay, for some reason. QRS. Ah, it's here. Okay, yeah, I have the folder. So yep. So I got my file. So the output here is, it shows it's a file. So it's a password
File.
file with RW and then the S, right? So which means
Yeah.
the S, where usually it should be with the X, correct? So but here it is
Yeah.
with the S.
S
This,
privileged.
yes, yeah, this S tells us that the SUID is active. Take for example, in the previous one we saw the T. So when there is a T, which is sticky bit, and when we
Take
see
a bit.
S, it is a SUID. So SUID is active, and the owner is the root. Okay, for this file. Here you can see, right, the root. So the owner is a root. If I execute this file, I can execute as a root user. You understand the difference, right? Here, so
Yeah.
it doesn't execute as a normal user. It will execute as the owner. So and here the owner is the root. So if I run it, I can execute it as a root user. Okay. And let me show you one more thing. So where we can check the permission of the file if it needs to be modified. For example, if I let run ls minus l slash etc slash shadow, see, you can very well see it's a file. Shadow is a file. Read, write, no execute, and another read, and there is no permissions at all for the others. Correct. So a regular user has a zero permission. He has no read, no write access, but still we are able to, we can actually see this file. We can actually read this file. It's because I'm actually executing it as it doesn't have a yes, so which means I won't be able to make any changes here. Correct.
Yeah.
For example, let me just show you this one. ls cd ls ls cd etc cd ls cat shadow. See, the permissions denied. It's because it's not a SUID file. But at the same
Okay.
time, if I go back uh, to the this one cat, see, I can read the entire content. It's because the SUID is enabled, and we can see that in the, instead of X, we can see that S file. So now you understood the
Yes.
difference, right? The previous file,
Yeah.
the one that does not have a S, we cannot view it. But the one that does have the SUID, the S component in it, we are able to see that even though we don't have access to it. Others doesn't have access to that, right? But still we are able to read it. Yeah. So that's the difference here. And yeah, moving on to the next question. Where is this? Not bad, not bad, not bad. Yep. So the next question. So it's a scenario-based question. So a developer gets a permission denied. Very, very common one. He gets a permission denied message when writing to slash opt slash app slash logs. So as a developer or as a DevOps engineer, what steps would you take to fix it? You take to fix it, or what steps will you take? So you are trying to read a file, you are trying to access, do something in this opt app logs folder, and you're getting a permission denied. So what are the steps that you'll do? Like how, what kind of root cause analysis you will do, and what actions will you try to fix it for this? So what is the first thing that
I
you will check?
I will check the permission of the
Hmm.
developer role.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me tell you this way. So you are in a production environment. Okay. So the first thing that you have
Mhm.
to do is, okay, when you are getting a permission denied, it usually means that there is a mismatch between the process user and the file system permissions. So that's the first thing that you have to understand. That's the mismatch between the process user and the file system permissions. Okay. So how will you verify that? Okay. Firstly, I need to know exactly who is trying to write to the file.
Okay.
So usually we used to do service accounts. We used to have a lot of other user accounts. We don't normally in any production, in any automation. We normally don't use our personal what to say, personal ID, because
No.
for example, if I'm in the team and if I move to another team, my Active Directory could be changed, or if I move out of the company, my Active Directory could be deleted, and there won't be any user. And because of to avoid those issues, we normally do a service account. Okay, because service account will still be there in the system until otherwise it's been removed, and it does not have any dependency. So that service account is being used, and it gets a service denied or permission denied. So if it is a manual process, firstly, or if the manual steps I'll do, what I'll do is I'll log in as a, I'll check the logged in user. In this case, maybe take it's a used service account. If it's an application, firstly, I'll check the service user. So first thing, the command that I try is who am I, and this will give me the current user account. So who, if I'm logged in as a service account, firstly I have to check who am I to confirm whether I who is the user it is. Okay, for that I have to use the who am I command. The second thing is which I have to check which user is running that specific application process. Say, take for example, in this case, I'll run PSAUX, and one important command anytime that you have to remember is the grep, which is the search, and then I'll give the app name. So when I do this, I get the user and I get the app and whatever is access and everything. I'll get every single information about the user. The about the application, right? Okay, that's the first thing. I have to check that running that specific application process, and then I have to inspect the target directory. So in this case, I'm going to check ls minus ld followed by opt app slash logs.
Okay. ls minus ld I have not heard.
Opt. Okay, that's fine. No, okay. Maybe I can try a different one. Opt is there. Okay. ls cd pt ls. Oh, there's no files. Okay, fine. Okay. Ls minus a. Okay, there's no files. No worries. Fine. So if in case if there are any files that needs to be checked, for example, if I'm giving it, so obviously I get a the command for the logs directory, I'll get a D, right? Followed by the read, write, execute, and then
Yeah.
the read, write, execute, whatever the access I'll get. So the first thing is in the output, I will check whether only the root has write access. Okay, maybe I can give this example as well. So, if, for example, let me do ls minus ld slash opt. Yeah. So if you see here, same thing, right? So it's a directory, and then I'll check whether only the root has write access. So here, yes. So other users does not have a write access, right? So only the root has the write access. If the developer or if the developer is logged in as a service account, right? So in that case, they will not. They only have the write. The read and the execute command. So obviously they can't write anything. So their permission is denied. Correct.
Yeah.
So you understood my point, right? Why? So you're
Yes.
trying to write something and you're getting a permission. That's what I told you. Like a developer is getting a permission denied when he is trying to write some lines into a particular file in a particular directory. So the first thing what I do is I will try who am I to find as a which user I have logged in, and then I use psaux followed by grep app name to check that particular app whether it is available and everything. So all the information about that, and then I'll do a ls minus ld to get the directories root permission, whatever the permission it has. So I'll get everything, and there I will check whether I have the right, the W permission. So that's very simple. Normally we used to do that, but as a question, when you get that, you should be able to answer that. Okay, and then the next thing I'll have to do is I have to write a sudo change ownership, and then I have to give the access to that particular user. For example, in this case, it's a service account, service test
Yeah.
colon by service.
Colon service
Yeah.
owner.
Uh, no, okay. In this case, service test owner followed by the opt folder. Okay, our root or whatever the permissions, then we have to assign. I can give that. Or in case we have a very own option of doing it. So change mod where I can give the permission as 755. So I 775 where I get the read, write, and execute all the options to the particular folder. Or I can even give the change group to the developers or to the dev team for the folders, right? App and logs. So I have got multiple options. So you can use any of these options. So change mod, change ownership, and change group. So everything will do the same part. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. So that's the question. And yeah, so yeah, you literally answered every single question. And then moving on to the next one. So what's the difference between change mod 600 versus change mod 640? Let's go here. So what does this change mod 600 and what does change mod 640 means?
600 means
Hmm,
owner has
hmm.
uh, both read and write access, no execute access,
Owner read,
and
write, no execute. Okay, sorry, read, write, no execute. Okay,
group and others have no access. It's minus minus after that.
okay, correct. And now 640.
640 is RW minus R, then
RW
minus minus
minus.
minus.
Yep.
Then
And group has.
group has read, write access, and minus minus, and others have minus
Okay. And
minus.
one more thing. Anytime when it comes to owner, we have to use U.
It
Correct.
should be you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
others minus minus minus. Okay.
Minus minus minus.
Great. Yep. That's it. So that's the difference. So now you know the difference, right? So only the owner
Yeah.
can read and write the file in um, 640 and both in 600 because it's six. But when it comes to group, the first file, 600, both group and other users does not have any access. So let me just change to U. Others is O. And when it comes to the 640, yes. So the same thing. What we see for six, and then for group, it's going to be just an additional read. Okay, great, makes sense. See, I told you, you're picking up really well. Okay, now one more question here. So, what does
I
this?
if
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
go through the recording once, then
Hmm,
yeah.
hmm,
If I
yeah,
go
yeah,
through
yeah.
the recording
Hmm.
immediately next day, I see it stays in my mind.
Yeah, that's why the next time I'm actually going with the questions, not with another exercise. So it'll be easy for you to understand.
Okay.
Yeah. So what does the T stands for this command, which is drwx rwt? What does this T stands in this
Sticky bit.
permissions? Sticky bit. Correct.
Bit, yeah.
So yeah. So first thing is again, as I told you, it's a very special permission that is used on not the files but the
Share
directories.
on a share file,
On the
share
directories. Yeah,
directory.
directories are shared directories. Yeah. So its primary function is to restrict the file deletion. So even if the directory is has a world writable permission, like that is even if it has a 777 permission, a user can only delete or rename a file if they are the owner of the file or if they are owner of the directory or the root user. Except that nobody else has access to touch that. So that is the sticky bit. And for that we are using the, and again this change mod 1777 will do that purpose. So when I use
Yes.
a 177, so automatically I mean change mod will actually set the file to the sticky bit. Okay, yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So this one, let's see, how do we answer it? I know I understand you know the answer, but yeah, let me ask. So how do you recursively change the ownership of a folder?
Change own, then
So
minus
usually
R.
we used to do recursive deletion. So this time it's quite different. How do you recursively change the ownership of a folder?
We use change owner, ch own, then
Hmm.
minus R, then minus R,
Okay. Okay.
and then we have to give
Hmm. Hmm.
like owner as
Hmm.
app
Hmm.
user like this.
Okay, okay. Okay, let me tell you. So to change the ownership of a folder and everything inside it, so that's why we do this recursive, right? So subfolders and files. So we use the change ownership command with the minus R. Yes, that's right. So
Minus R.
anytime when you want to delete or anything, so minus uppercase R, not lowercase, but uppercase R.
Yeah, uppercase R.
And the standard syntax for, let me first show that to you. So the syntax for that is ch own followed by minus R and then the user followed by the group and then the path. Okay, so path to the directory. So this is the format anytime when we want to do the change ownership, because just imagine when you are changing it only for the directory, inside the files inside it will not get changed. So when you are changing anytime the ownership or the mod or anything, always we have to be very careful about doing it recursively so that we can change the ownership of all the files. Okay, so let me just, if I can see, I can just show you a quick demo. Okay, so coming back here, and let me quickly make a, okay, sudo mkdir minus p followed by var w underscore slash underscore my underscore site followed by asset. So usually any application has this structure, right? So that's why I'm making that. Yeah, and then I'm gonna touch the file. So sudo touch followed by slash var slash www followed by my site followed by index dot html and then followed by sudo touch slash var w and then assets slash logo.png. So I've got two files now. So let's quickly check the ownership of that. So I'm going to do ls minus l
ls minus L
uppercase
H.
R. So when I do uppercase R, you know, so it's a recursive thing. So even for checking the ownership, we can use the R for recursive thing. So my underscore site. So if you see here, everything comes in. So the site, the assets, and here you can see the files inside the site. So inside my site I've got assets folder, correct? So I can
Mm,
see the ownership of them, right? The directory
yeah,
and then the file inside it. I have a folder assets, and inside the folder assets I've got a file and I can see that ownership as well. Okay, so now it's very simple. So to do the change, if I want to change the ownership, so if you see here, it has got just the read write, no execute, or just read, same way, right? If I want to change
yeah,
the ownership, what I'll do is I'll just do a sudo change ownership recursive followed by www, so user colon group. Okay, so that's the um, ownership that we give here. So var w my site. So now if I run the same command that I ran previously, so here you can see I have changed the ownership. Previously it was root, correct? So now I'm changing
yeah.
it to the www data for all the files. So I did it recursively. So it's not anymore going to be a root access or root user. It's going to be the I mean another user, just another user. Okay, so now you understood the
Okay.
difference, right? So previously it was
Yeah,
with the root. So root under colon root. Even if I want to change it back, I can very well do that just by changing it to root and root. Okay.
yeah,
So that's so simple. So now you know, right? So the ownership just by giving the use. So that colon thing is user underscore group. So if I run it again, see it came back from the www. So from that user to the group. So that's the difference. So so the thing is when you're using minus R, you have to be very careful with the any symbolic links. that L thing, right? If you remember. So by default, what does this change own does is when you're using change own minus R, it will follow the link and it will change the owner of the target file. So if you only want to change the ownership of the link itself without touching the target, then you have to use the minus H flag as well. Okay. So here we have used minus LR. If you want to use without you touching the target, you can use minus HR. Okay. So that's another difference. But for this one, recursively, if you want to change, we have to use minus R. That's the only thing that you have to remember, and followed by user and the group. So in this case, user and group, we are given it. So we know what to do that. Okay, fine. And one last question before we end. So again, it's about the UMask. So what is UMask and how does it affect the file creation?
UMask, I think, is when we create a file,
Mhm.
defines the default file permission, which is newly created, files or
Okay, okay,
directories.
okay, okay. Okay, let me tell you this way. So UMask, or we call it as user mask, is again a settings that will determine the
Mhm.
default permission which is assigned to files and the directories when they're first created. Okay, so
Yes.
uh, when they're first created, whatever the default permission it has, it will be assigned to the files and the directories. So just imagine like a filter. Okay, so what it does is it masks out or it subtracts any specific permission from the system's maximum allowable permissions. For example, the maximum of a directory, what is that? So it's a read, write, and execute, right, for all the users.
Yeah. 7.
And the
Yeah.
maximum of a file is 666, which is read write for all the users, because files are generally not created with any execution bits
Execute.
for any security reasons, because
Yeah.
we don't want to give any security execute permissions by default. So now the
Mhm.
logic is the system takes the base permission, right? So here in this case, the base permission is 777, and it
Yeah.
subtracts the umask value to get the result. For example, here this is the base, I mean the default or the base permission. Okay, when I do a umask, that is a user mask, and I'm giving 022. So what happens is I get a 755 permission. So, and these are the default for directories. When I come to 666 for a file, so this is the base, and when I do a umask of 022, what do I get is 644, right? So just only the and this is default for files. Okay, so that this is about the umask. Let me just show you a quick demo on this one. So I'll go here, umask. So umask is always 00002 for this one. So for example, if I go back to another one, cd init, sorry, it's a file, uh, umask init. Okay, let me go to docker, to dev. So cd dev umask. For even for umask, it is 002. So sometimes this is, I mean, this could be the standard default for most Linux systems. So what we'll do is let me create a file. Cd dot ls cd. Let me create a file. So touch default underscore file. Okay, default underscore file mkdir default. Okay, I have to use a sudo default underscore dir. So now I've got a created file and created a folder. Now when I do a ls minus l, I get to see I've got a default directory, a default file, and another file inside my system. So and I could see for the default file it is a read, write, execute, and then just the read for the user and read for others, right? And then for the default directory, it's always execute permission, no write permissions. Okay, so now if I want to change the umask to be more restrictive, what I'll do is, for example, if I can use a umask of 077, which means I'm subtracting 0 for the owner, 7 for the user, and another 7 for the others. Okay, which means I'm subtracting everything from the group and the other users. Okay, So on only the owner will have the access. For example, if I'm doing umask 0077, and if I do a touch private underscore file sudo touch private underscore file sudo mkdir private underscore dir, and if I do ls minus l mm, private directory. Okay, I think since I've okay, uh, what we did a umask of 0077, so it's still the same because I have created it with the access. Okay, it should supposed to go back. Okay, let me just check one more time. So umask 0077 ls minus l, and if I create another file, maybe like for example touch private underscore file. Okay, so basically for me as a user, I don't have access to execute. Okay, so that's another reason. But again, the overall logic is if I use 0077, which means I'm not removing any access to the owner, but I'm removing all the access to the other users and the main user. Okay, so that's a change. So instead of okay, we give the permissions. So if I want to remove the permissions, I can very well use it with the umask. So basically, umask in this case is a or basically I use umask or user mask is a setting where we determine the default permission which you can assign to the files and the directories when they're created. So anytime when I do a umask and then when I create a file, automatically those permissions will be unmasked, will be masked. So I'll not give any. For example, if I want to create multiple files, I do not want to go to every single file. I can do a recursive, but just imagine maybe for some files I need and for some files I do not need during creation. For example, when I'm creating an application, I want to move some folders. Maybe for some folders I have to do a umask. For others, I don't want to. So in those cases, I can very well apply this. Okay, because uh, recursive change ownership is something that you created a file already and then you are changing the ownership. But user
Yeah.
mask is you're doing it before you even create it, right? So that's a difference. Okay, so it's before and this is after. Okay, so that's the
And how
difference.
is it used very oftenly?
Yeah, when you are creating, when you are moving any, when you are see basically when you are creating any application. So what we do is we do the build and everything, and then we move all the files to the web server and the app servers. So before we do it, what we normally do is we actually do a user mask for all the files and directories so that nobody can execute or nobody can access it, because every time you are actually updating the files or updating the directories. Okay, so before you do
Okay.
that, when you do the umask, so those files only will have read or whatever the access we needed, and no other changes will can be made there. So it's every time.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll send you a set of assignments. So do that, and tomorrow
Okay. Yeah.
you can give me a reverse KT on that. Okay, I'll just WhatsApp that.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
okay then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Talk to you tomorrow then. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Good